Guys, just a wee quick one before we get started here. Thank you as ever for giving it a listen and giving it a click. However, any eagle-eyed viewers will notice that this one isn't quite as long as the rest of them. We've only been able to salvage about 20 to 25 minutes of what was a 40 to 50 minute chat, and I can only apologise for not being able to bring you 100% of what was a very fun and insightful, entertaining chat with the Lowland League's newest manager and another young manager in the game, and Jonny Stewart. It's been a start to the season that we've had a couple of technical difficulties, but I couldn't really go out all that way and not bring you this. So, that being said, if you're listening to this on Wednesday the 25th when it's been released, there is every chance that I'll be through in Dundee doing the next one. So, if you're missing your fix of slightly longer podcasts, just wait another week for us. I'm sure if you're interested in this one, you'll be even more interested in the next one. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look at that. We're back. It's been a wee while, but I didn't think I'd be back in Tranent that soon. As I said to you there, Jonny, it's good to also get the exclusive interview with you, as we've just mentioned there as well. I want to just ask then, because I'm really looking forward to this. I'm sure you're looking forward to the rest of your reign here. You're the new manager at Tranent. How much have you just simply been allowed to enjoy the experience, bar all the complications that come with management so far?
It's been okay, to be fair. Anyone that knows me knows it's something I want to get involved in when I stop playing, and it's probably happened a little bit sooner than expected, but I was unfortunate that Ian Little lost the job or moved on so early on in the season, and I kind of got it on an interim basis and I enjoyed it, and we got some decent results. So the chairman and the committee decided I was the man to take the club forward. So it's been non-stop, to be fair, for a lot of midweek games and things like that, but it's been enjoyable so far.
You're back in a maroon jersey as well. It's been a wee while since you've had one of them on. Must have just been a wee bit bizarre for you, red and white for the last 10 years, and here you are now.
Of course it is. It is strange moving to a new club after such a long time. I was at Bonnyrigg for 10 years, as you mentioned, and I had a great time there. So it was always going to be difficult or a bit different moving on to another club, but I had a wonderful time at Bonnyrigg, and it was the right time to leave and move on, and Tranent offered me a chance for a fresh start, and it was one I had to take with two hands.
Do you know, it was actually just on my train through that I was remembering I think my first ever football manager save was Bonnyrigg. I didn't get promoted to League One 3 times in a row. It was annoying. I think I kept you in the team.
Thanks for that.
I'm not just saying that just so I get your approval, but I had the whole team built, and then Jonny Stewart, there he was. That just came back to me on the train through. I do want to thank Matthew Thompson, of course, the director of football here. You can go and check that one out as well. We interviewed him a few months ago.
Didn't bother.
I want to maybe reference a wee bit. I think of Brendan Rodgers or Ange Postecoglou coming to Celtic, and they were very notably relying very heavily on the backroom staff. Kennedy had stayed, Strachan had stayed. Guys like Matty, guys who've already been at the club for a wee while longer than you have, how much have you relied on them, relied on their help to help you ease into it a wee bit?
In the first few weeks, they were massive, to be honest. Obviously, I was new to the club. I was new to management. So Matty, Bev, the goalie coach, Ryan, the physio, even Darcy, the kitman, boys who had been at the club for a while, obviously were a massive help to me, as was Brian, the chairman, and the rest of the committee. Now that I've got the job on a permanent basis, I managed to bring in a couple of guys to help me myself. So Daz Smith, who I knew from my time at Bonnyrigg, Daz is a great guy, a great coach, so he's come in as assistant manager. And Ross Gray, who is obviously still a player here, he's now player coach. So now I've got these two guys to rely on as well, and they're two guys who know the league, they're good football guys, and I can trust them. So it was important that I got somebody to support me, and the guys I mentioned previously are all still here, obviously. No one's left, no one's moved on, so we've built a good backroom staff, which I believe will be key to moving forward.
Are you then still playing yourself, or have you completely stepped away for that now? Are you still player coach, or are you?
So I'm still registered as a player, and technically I'm player manager. I will take a back step in the playing side of things, because I think it's probably very difficult. I know some guys do it, obviously Tids are at Kelty and Reece at Airdrie and things like that, but I feel like I want to give my full attention and focus to managing, And personally, I feel I can do that better if I'm standing at the side and stuff like that rather than being on the park. Everyone's got their own opinions and some see it differently, but I'm still registered as a player, and whether I have an injury crisis or I feel I need to put the boots back on, then I'm still there. I join in the training now and again to try and keep fit enough. So yeah, I'll predominantly be manager with a sided player if needed.
So in classic James English style, as I always like to take us right back to the start, of course, being the new manager, tell us who you are, where you come from, what was your football upbringing as well, and what kind of led you up to that dream contract that you got when you were fairly young as well?
Aye, so obviously been football daft since I started walking pretty much, playing football in the garden, the streets, local parks and stuff. I started off at Lowland Miners Boys Club, 5-a-side, 7-a-sides, right through to 11-a-sides. But back then, I was playing 11-a-side when I was 7, 8 year old. Used to play sweeper. Then I got picked up by Hearts, went into Hearts at 11, I think I was. Went to the Foyle Cup with them. Anyone who knows the Foyle Cup, it was a great tournament to go over with in Ireland. We did quite well as a team, and then went right through the youth stages with Hearts, so 12s, 13, 14s, and went full time at the age of 16. Left school at 16, went in full time, and back then there wasn't an 18s or a B team. It was under 19s, reserve league, and first team. So yeah, back then you got a 3-year contract with under 19, so the youth team, and yeah, it was brilliant. Obviously, most boys dream to go and play football, especially for the club that you supported growing up. So yeah, it was a dream come true, and fortunate enough to do that, and had three good years at the youth team, and managed to get another new contract with the first team as well. And it was brilliant.
You've spoken before, I think it was on the Bonnyrigg official podcast, the Rosy Posy podcast. That's a fantastic nickname, isn't it? Oh, Tranent of the Belters, aren't they? So that's another belter name there. I want to throw you right back in at the deep end as well, and ask you about one of the most talked about guys still on podcasts, especially, that being Vladimir Romanov. You spoke about how strange it was. You know, there was just maybe a few wee things that you thought, what is going on here? Especially like bring about 10 or 11 guys over for a trial once. I want to ask so specifically about being a youngster in that system, because I can imagine experienced professionals can get on with it, but being a young player and around that time, and you left just after things started getting a bit ropey, didn't you? Do you think maybe things would have went a wee bit differently for you had somebody else maybe been at the helm at that time?
Potentially. I'll never know the answer to that. It was certainly very interesting. Being a player at Hearts back then, it was also very difficult as a young boy because the squad was so big, it was so strong. When I went in at 16, I remember I think my squad number was 63, and there wasn't any numbers missing. It was literally 1 to 63. So that was your first team, then you're under 19.
40 of them Lithuanian, aye.
Pretty much, aye. I think the first team was like 1 to 40 or something like that. Then the 19's obviously 20.
You get a cheek to complain about Chelsea today, eh?
Yeah, I know.
It was Hearts who were the initial pioneers of that.
You mentioned about 10 or 11 boys coming over on trial. I think there was more than that. I think the plane came over, to be honest. No, it was interesting, but also very difficult to try and break through into that first team because the standard was so high. I mean, you had boys Champions League winners, Jankowski's coming over, and boys in my position obviously playing centre midfield. We had Julian Borelli, Bruno Aguiar, Paul Hartley, just to name a few, who were all top players and stuff. So yeah, it was great being in and around that and seeing all these players and working with them and training with them and obviously learning off them, but ultimately trying to break through and take their position was very difficult. There was a lot of money getting chucked about at Hearts at the time, and a lot of top players. So yeah, there's many stories we could go on about, but footballing wise, it was interesting. Yeah.
I hope Tony Bloom's done his homework on Vladimir Romanov with that new news coming out. But you were at two different clubs, two clubs in the same division on loan, in Dundee and Raith Rovers, of course, and they were both short-term loans as well, which I found was quite interesting. You don't get many guys that have a couple of emergency loans. How do you almost compare and contrast then the two experiences? Because the general consensus for the ignorant onlookers like myself is that you go out and you get game time, you come back a better player. What were the unique things that you took from both of those experiences?
So, you said they were both very similar. Both emergency loans. First one to Dundee when I was 20, just coming up 21. And that was when Dundee had that administration issues, and they had to get rid of a lot of players. We got deducted 25 points, so everyone basically wrote them off and thought they're going to get relegated here. So I went to Dundee, and basically they'd kept 11 players. There were a couple of young boys who were basically just filling the bench, making up numbers, and then it was me. So I went there as a young lad, kind of not knowing what to expect. But because of what had happened to them, it kind of brought that 11, 12 and the staff and the fans as well right together. And it was great to be involved in, to be honest. They were a right good team. They kept, obviously, majority of their best players. Lee Griffiths there, Gary Harkins, who was an unbelievable footballer, Rab Douglas, Matty Lockwood. They're a right good team, a right good 11, but that's basically all they had. And then they managed to get me an emergency loan. I don't know how, don't know why. And we used to pull in trialists now and again as well. I remember Neil McCann came and played a couple of games as trialist. So it was good. It was exciting. We'd done really well. I left just before the end of the season because my 93 days emergency loan was up. So I didn't manage to stay till the end of the season, but the club managed to stay up. And I remember the manager, Barry Smith, at the time, and a couple of the boys texted me saying, like, thanks that you played a part in that. So it was nice to get that recognition. And I learned a lot from that, obviously being involved more with a first team changing room, a first team environment, and it was basically a dogfight. It didn't matter how they performed, how they played, as long as they got 3 points. So it was good. And then the Raith Rovers one was towards the end of my time at Hearts. It was basically the last 6 months of my contract. I got told by Hearts through a newspaper, actually, back page of newspaper, that I was getting released. I knew my time was up, to be fair. I hadn't played a lot of football, I had a few injuries and stuff, and deep down I knew I wasn't good enough probably to stay at Hearts, but I mean, it wasn't very nice finding out the back page of a newspaper that I was getting, my contract wasn't getting renewed. Anyway, then I went and spoke to them and they said, you can go to Lithuania. And obviously Romanov's got the feeder team Kaunas as well, so would you fancy going to Lithuania for a season, going over and playing there? We'll keep you on the same contract, we'll put you up in an apartment, etc. So I thought, aye, why not? I'll go and give it a shot. It was nothing to lose, still going over and playing full-time football in a different country, different culture and things like that. I says, aye, it'll be great, I'll give that a bash. So this was in January, and basically everything was done. I signed the contract. It was -10, I think, in Lithuania at the time, so I went out into Princes Street, I went some shopping, got some proper winter clothes, I got myself a new laptop and stuff for going away, and then a week later it all fell through. I think Romanov got done for some dodgy payments or something.
Yep. That sounds about right.
Kaunas got chucked at the league, so that fell through. So I was a bit gutted about that, to be honest, because I was looking forward to going over there and experience something different. Then John McGlynn was the manager at Raith Rovers at the time, and he took myself and Jason Thompson on another emergency loan to the end of the season. So it was quite similar to the Dundee one, actually, because Raith Rovers were down there fighting relegation at the time as well. And I went and played a few games and the team managed to stay up again. So yeah, it was good. John McGlynn's obviously a top coach. So it was good again going working with him and just being involved in a first team changing room again.
From Kaunas to Kirkcaldy, that's the title sorted, I think, for this one. Michael Tidser actually did speak about how leaving Celtic wasn't only just tough because he was a Celtic supporter, but in terms of his footballing experience, that was all he knew, was playing for Celtic. He was probably from about a similar age from you were at Hearts. Would you agree then that, as much as it would hurt from a Hearts supporter to leave Hearts, but was it actually just a wee bit more weird because you didn't know any other setting, all you knew was Hearts growing up, and now you were free?
Of course, as you said, it's at heart obviously being a Hearts fan, probably hurt a wee bit more than maybe other boys who were getting released or whatever, but it was certainly strange and weird, not just for a football side of things, but just a general life. That's what I'd done I was 16, went full time, so I'd done that for 6 years. Never had a proper job, never had any other work experience or anything like that. Even when I was at school, 14, 15, I'd done my work experience at Hearts. So I never really had any experience in anything else. I did okay at school, I got decent grades and things like that, so I thought, right, okay, I better get myself a job now and I'll be fine. I got A's in my hires and things like that, I've got a job, no bother, but I had no work experience. So I was applying for jobs and getting interviews, and they were asking me certain questions about helping customers or giving me an example of this, and I was stuck. I must have came across like a right idiot on the phone because I had no examples or any experience.
Playing for Hearts, no enough.
Exactly. No, when they were a bit Hibs fans.
Well, there you go.
So obviously the football side of thing hurt, but it was also very, very strange and different going back into the real world, I suppose.
I found that actually interesting because I heard you said that on the Rosie Posey pod. I'm going to address that wherever I can. By the way, I love saying that now. I found that quite interesting because sometimes it's very easy to forget that people do have lives outside the football, especially part timers. And if that's one thing that this podcast has taught me is that these guys do have lives out with their football. Do you think that's maybe something that clubs or footballing authorities can maybe do? Because ultimately, like you said there, all you knew was Hearts and playing football, but when somebody wants you to deal with customers, is that the most relevant experience? Maybe no, unless they want you to be the kind of poster boy for the shop. Do you think that's maybe somewhere that football can improve on, is helping people get into more opportunities like that outside of the game?
100%, definitely agree with that. And I'm sure I've mentioned that before in another interview or podcast I've done. I don't know what it's like now. I'm just talking from my experience back then. But yeah, like when we were 16, 17, you go full time. The PFA or SFA, I can't remember, did try and put young guys into college on a Wednesday. You had to go and do a course, but it was meaningless. It was pointless. Like, you would choose something that the rest of your teammates are doing, so you can go have a crack when I'm in college. Or, I was like, boys would go to a cooking class, or I went to an IT. I think it was like one module of an accounting course. So I was only doing like one unit or one module of it. So I wasn't actually getting any qualification then. So, I mean, they did try, but I don't think it was really had the foundation in place to do anything meaningful. I think it might be different now. Obviously, you've got your Open University, and I think the PFA are quite big on like career courses and things like that. So it's maybe changed now, but definitely back then, when I was around about that age, that there could have definitely been a lot more help for like 17, 18, even I was 22, but even younger than that, kids leaving football without any real idea or focus where to go.
You then went on and had 2 stints in 2 years at Brecon and at East Fife. Where are you mentally at that point? Are you a bit kind of pessimistic about what's coming next because of the kind of almost quick turnover of clubs you've had, or were you quite...
Nah, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't really chilled. I'd kind of, my head, I wouldn't say my head was gone, but I kind of fell out of love with football a wee bit. Obviously, playing full-time football for 6-7 years, and then dropping down the leagues to go to Brecon, who was a great wee club, to be fair. They were in League One at the time and very well looked after. Had a good time there, but the manager kind of got sacked halfway through the season, so the manager that signed me left. The other manager came in and I didn't play as much under him, so he ended up letting me go at the end of the season. And then I went to East Fife. I actually agreed to sign under Billy Brown. He was the manager at the time. We both went on holiday, and I got a phone call when I was on holiday saying Billy had been sacked and a different guy was coming in. He still signed me, to be fair, but he ended up then getting sacked as well. And Gary Smith came in and the club got relegated. So Gary basically wiped the slate clean and let go basically almost the whole squad and kind of started afresh. So I had kind of went to Brecon for a year, been released, went to East Fife for a year, been released, and I was like, probably just fell in love with it a wee bit, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Like, I really didn't know. I had an offer to actually go to Forfar, but then Bonnyrigg came in for me, and I wasn't really sure about dropping down to that level. Obviously, they were a junior team at the time, but they were local to me. I knew they were one of the better junior teams, and we should be up there challenging for obviously for the league and Junior Scottish Cup and things like that. And I just wanted to go and enjoy it again. So I decided to go and sign for Bonnyrigg.
And even just saying there that Bonnyrigg being a junior club, of course it's been one of the biggest rises that we've seen in Scottish football for a wee while. Obviously they were one of the big and established junior sides, and I can imagine now, considering you've been there that long ago anyway, that they have massively improved the facilities and the whole feel around the club. Where kind of was the club though in relation to their level at that point? Like, were the facilities kind of more advanced for the league? Were they knocking on the door of the next progression? Were they ahead of their time a wee bit, or were they about that level?
I wouldn't say so. Back then, when obviously that was 10 years ago when I signed with Bonnyrigg, I wouldn't say they were ahead of the game or they had any real aspirations of going where they are just now. I think it's took a lot of hard work behind the scenes to gradually over the years, a lot of money, a lot of investment on the ground, on facilities and things like that. Obviously on the pitch and the team as well. But they've got a good hard-working committee and group of volunteers who work tirelessly behind the scenes, as do a lot of these clubs. Tranent being no different from any other, where teams like this probably don't survive if they don't have these volunteers and hard-working people behind the scenes who never really get seen. So going back to Bonnyrigg, I don't think they had any real idea back then that this is where they could go. And it's just been a natural progression over the years and doing like small bits over time. Every pre-season there's work getting done at the ground to make sure it's up to the standards, and obviously now meeting the certain criteria it's got to hit and things like that, which seems to just get harder and harder every year. It's took a long, slow process for them to get there, and I'm sure Tranent will be kind of looking at trying to do the same.
Where are they then now? Of course, there's several levels above. So how different then was the Bonnyrigg that you've just left to the one that you came in then, just in terms of the whole feel around the place then?
A lot of the same faces are still there, which has probably been one of the successes, one of the reasons for success over the years. But in terms of infrastructure off the pitch and things like that, it's night and day. They've done a lot of hard work, as I mentioned, and they deserve a lot of credit for getting the club up to that standard to going off to get the licence and get promoted and things like that. Just things like getting the floodlights installed and just wee things like the maintaining in the ground. And I think they've obviously got to have so many seats now and disabled access and things they probably never even gave any thought to back then. So it's been a big project for them, but they've done well to do it.
Hopefully Bucky are listening to this one then when it comes to stadium infrastructure. We say there also just about the number of levels they've went up. You're a guy that probably has travelled, well, you're probably quite high up in the leaderboard when it comes to guys who have went up a several amount of levels. I want to just ask a general question, and it's a question that I've always kind of asked guys in and around this level, and it's about the whole system as a whole. I know, of course, there was the rebrand and the reform about 10 years ago with the SPFL and tried to make it more of an open shop when it was a very closed shop. Are there aspects then for you, considering you've been up the levels and while you were at Bonnyrigg, you had to apply to even get into the East of Scotland Football League? Are there things that do need to change in terms of promotion and relegation and making things more open within the Scottish football pyramid?
Aye, 100%. 100% think it needs to be more open. I don't think it'll ever happen while the clubs obviously in League 2 and things like that get a vote in it, because they're looking after themselves, which you can't blame them for doing, I suppose. But winning the Lowland League and then having to put in a playoff against the Highland League and then having to go on another two-leg playoff against whoever finishes bottom of League 2, I think it's just too much. I don't think it's fair at all, and it's all just suited to keep the League 2 team in the leagues, to be honest. It makes it really, really difficult for the Lowland League or the Highland League team to get promoted, and I can't see it changing, to be honest.
I've always thought, though, the fact that then the last place team plays last as well. Yeah. You know, even in like the Premiership playoffs, the fact that Ross County joined in the last almost round of a playoff, yeah, and surely the other one that should be at a bit of a disadvantage because they're the ones that finished second bottom.
I totally agree.
It's really bizarre, but you say there about a lot of the same familiar faces at Bonnyrigg. Your manager Robbie Horn, the legend that he is, of course, round about those parts. He was there for a combined 8 years, I think, because he took a wee year off, didn't he? And of course, you know that probably better than anybody when you stepped in for a wee while. We'll come back to that in a wee minute. A thing that Dick Campbell said a lot as well was about familiarity and about how he'd signed guys who were in their early 20s and they had that fairy tale season when they were at least in their mid into late 20s. How important then is the familiar faces and the familiarity in Scottish football?
Hard one to say that.
It's just
I find that's massive, and it's one of the things I spoke to the Tranent chairman and committee about, is trying to build that togetherness and that team spirit.